What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be seeing if I can win in the Open Master League using only Great League Pokemon. And I don't mean Pokemon you typically see in the Great League, but powered up fully. I mean literal 1500 CP Pokemon or lower. Now, those of you that have been subscribed to the channel for a while will know that I've successfully beaten Ultra League teams with only Great League Pokemon. I've won in the Master Premier Classic Cup with only Great League Pokemon, but this is a challenge on a completely different level, and one I've attempted nearly every single season since XLs were introduced without success so far, but will today be any different? So before we get into the battles, I do want to explain my thought process when it came to choosing which Pokemon to run and which team I was hoping to counter, but if you do want to skip that and go straight to the battles, as always there are timestamps in the description, so it should be very easy to navigate. So these days the average legendary Pokemon is maxing out at around 4,500 CP, that's 3 times the CP limit for the Great League, and it means obviously you can't just run any old strong Great League team and expect to pick up any wins. You have to build your team to take down a very specific Master League team. The issue here is that the majority of Master League Pokemon are literally impossible to beat with Great League Pokemon. You need to look at Pokemon that can completely wall their typical moveset whilst also dishing out big damage in return, but even then it's still going to be difficult. In my opinion, the easiest Master League Pokemon to counter is Giratina Origin Form, since it typically runs only Ghost type moves, so you can run either Obstagoon with Lick or Alolan Raticate with Bite, and since you triple resist everything, you actually win every shield scenario besides the 0 and 2 shield scenario. The next issue is then finding a common team with Giratina in it that also has 2 other Pokemon that can potentially still be beaten with Great League Pokemon. As someone that doesn't usually play in the Open Master League, I don't know what teams are common, so I reached out to Homesize Henry a few seasons ago and he told me the most realistic team that I could be beating was Dialga, Giratina and Mewtwo. The great thing about Mewtwo is that at least if it's running the standard moveset of Psy Strike and Shadow Ball, its energy is also walled by Obstagoon and Alolan Raticate. Technically they do still lose all even shield scenarios against Mewtwo, but since their matchup up against Giratina is so dominant, I think between the two of them, they should probably be able to take out both Giratina and Mewtwo. Now for the hard part, Dialga. Dialga is such a unique typing that it's pretty hard to wall even with fully maxed out Pokemon in the Open Master League, but I think Shadow Mawile is probably my best option. Being able to triple resist Dragon Breath is absolutely necessary, but of course because it's part Steel, the fairy damage is only neutral. Shadow Mawile can technically win the 2 shield scenario up against Dialga, but that is also dependent on having a Power Up Punch shielded. Recently, however, Jonkus put out a similar team with Hisuian Avalugg in the lead with the same back line, which looks actually slightly easier to take on, but it's very difficult to predict how common that team will actually be. So I start off with the Shadow Mawile. I will switch up my team partway through, but you're going to see how that pans out. But anyways, with that being said, let's finally get into the question of the day. What other GBL challenges would you like to see me attempt in the future? Let me know in the comment section down below, explain them if they're not obvious by the title of the challenge, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, it's Shadow Mawile into our Dialga, and I'm not going to waste your time and showcase every single battle I did with this team. I'm just going to showcase the ones with the Dialga lead, and then we'll just take it from there. But here we're going to go for the play rough. I always throw after 8 Fairy Winds because that allows me to get there 1 turn before the opponent makes it to their first Iron Head, and it just kind of throws them off there. If we do overfarm just slightly, the opponent's going to swap into their Mewtwo there, and unfortunately this isn't something that I'm really used to seeing. I'm used to seeing the opponent just play out that lead matchup, and unfortunately now that I come in with my Obstagoon, I mentioned in the start of the video that unfortunately Obstagoon does not win any even shield scenario up against Mewtwo, and since the opponent's already able to grab a shield advantage, this is not looking ideal for us. We're going to shield the next Psy Strike. Honestly, if I was expecting to shield once, I should have shielded the first one before I got off the Obstruct, because now unfortunately we just barely live that, and a Night Slash will not be enough damage to take out the Mewtwo. So yeah, definitely should have shielded the first move there. We're now down 2 shields. It's not looking too good for us. We come in with the Raticate though. I am able to bite farm them down. I'm going to swap into my Mawile. Possibly could have gone for a Power Up Punch bait here because the opponent shields that up. They come in with the Giratina Origin Form and we barely miss out on making it to a play rough. So even though this is the exact same team that I am targeting, because the opponent swaps out there, there's not a lot I can do, and I will actually be able to fully take them out here. This Shadow Ball is triple resisted. I should be able to live 2 more Shadow Balls, and this Crunch will possibly put them into farm down range at this point, especially with a defense drop there, which is really nice. But unfortunately the Dialga is just too healthy. They've still got a shield remaining anyways. So yeah, there's not a lot we can do. The opponent can throw another charge move here, and at this point their switch clock is probably coming up, so they go for the Shadow Ball. We do tank that. They swap back into Dialga. They're able to Dragon Breath, farm me down, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But into the next game, and I only faced that team once, so I figured, actually, you know what, Yonkers put out a new team. This is going to be a lot easier to take on, so I might as well switch it up. I led with Poliwrath because Poliwrath can pretty easily take on Hisuian Avalugg, but unfortunately, I did, I think, 4 sets with this team, didn't see that team once, and I saw many Dialga leads in a row, so I actually decided, you know what, let's just go back to the Shadow Mawile. I can at least, well, I'm pretty sure that I will see lots of Dialga leads with this team, so let's just go back to what we know, and once again, gonna go for 8 Fairy Winds, go for the Play Rough, throwing just before they make it to the first Iron Head, and if the opponent does play out the 2 shield scenario, I can actually go for 3 Play Roughs and a Power Up Punch just before the opponent makes it to their 3rd Iron Head. So here, we are gonna overfarm. I always go for the Power Up Punch on the 2nd charge move here. Honestly, it doesn't really matter if they shield or not. If they no shield and they overfarm, I can make it to the Play Rough, and Play Rough is now boosted. It gets them very low. If unfortunately still doesn't quite take them out by this point, that's the best I can get out of this matchup. We're going to come in with Obstagoon. The opponent swaps out straight away into their Shadow Mewtwo, and things are looking great for us. We're going to go straight for the Obstruct here. This time I'm able to throw it before the opponent gets off a charge move. Now the opponent has farmed up a ton of energy. It could be a Focus Blast, so I'm going to shield this. They go for a Side Strike. That is of course double resisted. We're now going to go for a Night Slash, because we debuffed their defense. That does big damage. They do make it to another charge move, but I can live this, and if it is Giratina in the back, I think we can just win this game here. But the opponent is unfortunately running Lugia in the back, and Lugia is just impossible to beat. It's just so damn bulky that even if I've got something like a Pawniard that's going to resist everything and deal super effective damage, it's still just not going to work for me. And the opponent is going to farm all the way up to the Aeroblast. The opponent full sends the Aeroblast, taking out the Raticate. They're able to Dragon Tail, farm me down, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But into the next battle, we're going to see a Dialga once again. So once again, just going to go for those 8 Fairy Winds and then go for the Play Rough. Typically, the opponent's not going to try and like make a catch or anything. They probably underestimate the well, this team that I'm running, because of course we are using Great League Pokemon. There you can see Play Rough obviously doesn't do that much damage. We have to go for a Power Punch and then the next Play Rough. But if the opponent does throw straight away, they're actually going to grab both of my shields before I can take them out. And also the opponent doesn't use their shield there either, so certainly not ideal for me. We're going to shield up the Iron Head. We're going to overfarm now. The opponent is choosing to stay in, and if they let this go through, then this should be enough damage to take out the Dialga here. And they do have a 2 shield advantage, but they come in with their Giratina origin form. We're going to go straight for a boosted Play Rough. That does big damage to the Giratina, and we come in with the Obstagoon, and they have the Shadow Mewtwo in the back, so this is actually looking possible for us. We're going to go straight for the Obstruct. Obstruct grabs the first shield from the opponent. This is not enough energy for a Focus Blast, but unfortunately they're running Ice Beam and not Shadow Ball, and that does mean that unfortunately this will be enough damage here to KO our Alolan Raticate. And unfortunately we do lose that game. I think if the opponent was running Shadow Ball there, I think we had the win in the bag, but unfortunately that was not to be. Now into the next battle, we do finally see Hisuian Avalugg, and it's unfortunate because I have switched up my team now. And yeah, I'm going to have to shield this up, and the opponent's going to go for a Rock Slide, so not actually going for the Icy Wind, which is, I mean, it's okay for us. It doesn't really help us that much because we're not dealing that much damage, but the opponent gives up switch advantage, and they swap into their Mewtwo. Now in the video, Yonkers did actually recommend running Side Strike and Shadow Ball on his Mewtwo, so I'm actually feeling pretty good about this, but unfortunately I'm just not going to be able to take out the Avalugg anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to let the next move go through. The opponent are going to go for another Side Strike. We do live that a little bit more comfortably this time, but they will just be able to fully Psycho Cut farm me down. So we're going to go for the Night Slash here. Night Slash does get them fairly low. They're able to Psycho Cut, farm me down, and at this point, I might as well just let my Mawile go down. It can't really do an awful lot. I think my win condition here is if the opponent randomly swaps into their Giratina, but they're not going to do that. They swap back into the Avalugg, and I just have to concede the match there. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Dialga in the lead once again. So once again, going to go for those 8 Fairy Winds, then go for the Play Rough, and let's just see how this goes. We're going to go for the Play Rough. We've seen already, it doesn't really do that much damage here, so the opponent is going to overfarm though, and they end up throwing on alignment, so we get a Fairy Wind in for free, but unfortunately that still doesn't allow me to make it to a Power Punch, and then another play rough before they make it to the second Iron Head, but we do at least grab the shield this time around, and then they overfarm as well. So now we make it to the play rough, gonna get them fairly low, still not really that low, but at this point, that's probably best case scenario for me. I'm gonna come in with my Obstagoon, go for the lick farm down, and let's hope the opponent still has the Mewtwo and the Giratina in the back, but no, unfortunately, it's a Landorus, and I saw quite a lot of Dialga with Landorus in the back, so unfortunate, but nothing I can do there, unfortunately. Into the next battle, and how many times did I say unfortunate there? Bit over the top, but we're going to see a Dragonite in the lead. They're going to go for a Superpower, now swapping into Mewtwo, so Dragonite obviously not the Pokemon we're looking for in the lead. We do at least deal super effective damage with our Shadow Marwile, but unfortunately Superpower is a lot cheaper than the Iron Head, so they do make it to those charge moves a bit faster. But here, the opponent going to go for the Shadow Ball, which is definitely not the correct play from the opponent, so I'll definitely take it. Of course, they're not used to seeing Obstagoon in the Open Master League, but if they have any knowledge on typings, they should realize that Shadow Ball, first of all, is just a worse move than Side Strike, but also it's triple resisted up against Obstagoon. Now, I'm going to shield this up. I want to maintain alignment. The opponent swaps back into Dragonite. I'm just going to go straight for the Play Rough here. Play Rough is going to deal super effective damage. I still need another Play Rough to KO from this range, but I'm able to get there in time. I don't expect the opponent to shield this. They do let it go through, and let's see. The final Pokemon is going to be an Excadrill, unfortunately. If it was Giratina, once again, I think we could have been fine here, but unfortunately, Excadrill can very easily tank the Power Punch there. Going to come in with my Obstagoon. I was hoping to get off a Obstruct there and debuff their defense, but we don't get there in time, and now Raticate might be able to live this charge move, but we're not going to be able to fully bite farm them down. They go for the Drill Run, and they can just Mud Shot farm me down at this point, but instead they're going to throw another charge move just to be safe. Drill Run takes out the Raticate, and unfortunately we do lose that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game we see Rayquaza in the lead. So this is actually a bit better than the Dragonite because they have to full send a Hurricane or a what's the Dragon Ascent to take us out there, but we are going to see the opponent swaps into Dialga, which is quite a strange play to have Rayquaza and Dialga, but now we can go for a boosted Play Rough, and because we have a significant energy advantage, this isn't actually that bad for us. So now I'm going to shield this up. They go for the Iron Head. I'm going to overfarm quite considerably, throwing just before they make it to the next charge move, and a Play Rough with the boost is going to take out the Dialga, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent's going to come in with Mewtwo, so now I'm going to swap into my Obstagoon. They swap back into their Rayquaza, so not ideal for me, but I can live this charge move. Breaking Swipe, going to deal some decent damage there. I do at least make it to a Night Slash, so I'm just going to fire off any chip damage that I can get, and we're going to come back in with my Shadow Marwile. So we come in with the Marwile, we make it to the Play Rough in time, and if this goes unshielded, this might actually KO the Rayquaza here. It actually just barely doesn't, but that's even better for us because now we can bite, farm them down with my Alolan Raticate. And if the opponent is running Ice Beam or Focus Blast or anything, then unfortunately we will lose this game. But if it is just a Side Strike, unfortunately it is the Ice Beam, and unfortunately that's once again going to take out our Raticate. Not a lot we could have done there, but GG's to that opponent. Into the next battle we see Dialga, and at this point you can see that the Dialga is actually not fully powered up. It's only in the 4200 CP range, so it is slightly excelled but not super excelled here. So we're going to shield up the Iron Head, and we are going to go, and we've already grabbed a shield here. We're going to go for another Play Rough. Honestly, didn't expect the opponent to double shield their Dialga straight away. I should have just played it like I normally do and go for a Power Punch on the second charge move, because now, unfortunately, we will be able to make it to another Play Rough here, but it's actually not going to be quite enough damage to KO, but the opponent gives up switch advantage, swapping into their Giratina, and you can see this isn't a level 50 Giratina either. They have got a Best Buddy ribbon. I don't know which Pokemon they had actually boosted, but doesn't matter. We're going to go for the Obstruct, and the reason I go for Obstruct here is because it obviously buffs my defense, also debuffs theirs, and by the time we throw two of them, the lick damage is going to start dealing more damage up against the Giratina, so we can just put them into range where we can go for a Night Slash. So there you see second Obstruct, and now these licks are really chunking up against the Giratina. We're actually going to go for the Night Slash straight away. Night Slash nearly KOs. We actually get the boost there, which doesn't really help us as I'm going to swap straight away, but unfortunately it's a Ho-Oh in the back, so It wasn't the Mewtwo that I was expecting to see anyways, and unfortunately that is the final battle of this video. So that's gonna be it for today's video. Unfortunately, once again, I was unsuccessful, and I did stop this around the 2200 elo range because I started facing opponents that didn't have fully maxed out Pokemon, and at that point it just doesn't feel like the proper challenge anymore. It feels like if I did get that win, it wouldn't feel like I did it officially, so I just stopped there. I'm probably going to try and regain some of my elo. I might try this challenge again in the final week of the season, so leave a comment if you do want to see me trying it once again. I will only post a video if I am successful though, so obviously if you don't see a video it means that I wasn't able to do it, unfortunately. But if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you do want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.